Hello and welcome to another episode of the Knock On podcast brought to you by Zero Tackle. And Dan, I'm back from my hiatus of the last week where Scott did absolutely terribly. But we've had another big week of Rugby League to gloss over that. What's happened, Dan?
Now, to be fair to Scott, it was actually Sam who filled in last week and did terribly.
Same.
Even so bad. Mate, look, it's been almost a week now, but all everyone's talking about is the Origin brawl. Mm-hmm. We've got 10 players either suspended or fined, or 10 players fined plus 2 suspended. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are not enough Queenslanders got punished for their actions in that fight, and I think when you're looking at the Jerome Luai and Brian Toto situation and Cam Murray running off the bench, if I was getting beat up 8-on-2, I'd kind of hope someone came from anywhere. But the fact of the matter is, I had no problem with the DCE Luai confrontation in an Origin arena whatsoever. The first, and I know they penalised Daly Cherry Evans for instigating it, but the penalty should have gone against Jeremiah Nanai for sticking his head where it wasn't needed. Mm-hmm. Quite frankly, if he doesn't go and push Jerome Luai in the back, that doesn't happen. And you can't, as a match review committee, sit there and expect the team in blue to watch their mates get choked and pulled and thrown. And like five people were laying on Brian Toto. And the first person that could come to their aid was Cam Murray. You don't suspend him, praise him. Because he didn't go in and throw a punch. And he didn't go in and make it worse. He literally went in and the first thing he did was pick someone up off Brian Toto's head. I think it's ridiculous. We want to set this precedent that Origin is above the rules, but don't break them. But it's above the rules, and we will show that footage for the next 10 years of promos of Cameron Murray running up the sideline to get involved in a handbag fight, and we will use that to get billions of dollars, and we will broadcast that into Vegas and Asia and any other market that we want to get into, that this is a gladiator sport, but don't tell anyone Cameron Murray copped 2 weeks for it. That's horse crap.
Agreed. On the night, I thought the penalty could have gone either way. I was like, just let him play on, who cares? There was nothing in it. Okay, it looked bad in the optics because so many players were in, especially those off the bench. But it spilled over the sideline onto the bench. What I couldn't cop was this, everyone saying that Cam Murray should be sent off because he wasn't involved. So what, just because he's an interchange player, even though they're almost in his lap on the sideline, that he shouldn't get involved. I would have had an issue if he ran 60 metres into like the 20, the Queensland 20 and got involved, I can understand. But the bloke was much closer than a lot of the other players that were on the field because, as I said, it spilled off the field. I thought Olakau'atu coming down in his suit to get involved was hilarious. I cannot believe he's copped so many weeks.
He said he's the one that I can cop a suspension. He's got nothing to do with the game. He's not even the 18th man.
Just because he's in the suit?
Yeah. That's like your trainer going and throwing a punch.
Well, Thurston and that were all involved. They were all grabbing people too.
He's a sideline commentator.
Yeah, but he was working for Queensland on the night. So he had nothing to do with the game. See, I think if you got to suspend one, you got to suspend them all.
Yeah.
I would have just fined a lot of them, except no, I would have given a token week because he kicked it off. Absolutely agree with that.
Yeah.
But you look at the numbers, and there's a screenshot that I shared, and then Angus Crichton shared.
It was 9-on-2.
My only problem I had with the whole thing was that Kalen Pong was standing there doing nothing.
Yeah.
Every other player was involved saying, whoa, Matt Burton's been fined for doing this. Oi, boys, come on. That was literally his involvement. He grabbed one of our players, us being the Blues, and separated them. And he's been fined for breaking up a brawl. Kalen Ponga wasn't suspended or fined. He just sat there, hands in his pockets.
No, wasn't it? He was holding someone's hand.
Yeah, there was a screenshot of that. He was trying to pull him away. It was all about nothing. And all we heard in the build-up was that we got to bring back the biff. Oden's got to be different. It's the most gladiatorial sport in the world. Bit of pushing and we fine everyone half their match fee. Get out of here.
Yeah, the penalty should have gone against Jeremiah Nanai, and I actually would have been happy with him getting Simbi because he had no business involved in that. Cherry Evans pushed Luai. Luai pushed him back. Cherry Evans pushed him again. And it was all done and dusted at that point there because they started laughing until Nanai pushed him in the back. Penalty against Nanai. Bin him if you have to. Well, did they bin him?
No.
No,
Yeah, he went, and so did Murray.
yeah.
Did you feel like it was a one from each had to go situation?
Well, I mean, it didn't really matter because Cam Murray was on the bench anyway. Did they have to take someone off the field?
Yeah, Mitch Barnett, I believe, went off. So
Oh, poor Mitch.
yeah,
Just come on
it
for
was.
a
It was
HIA.
I'd never seen that before, and I'd never seen a player sent off in a suit from the sidelines. It was fun. So what? It's Origin. Who cares?
Yeah, I've got an issue with the suit. Like, you're talking about Thurston and everyone else, like, depending on their involvement, but Oluwakawatu actually had his arm around someone in a chokehold. I don't think Thurston or anyone did that.
No, definitely.
Otherwise, you probably would have seen a little bit more about it. Look, in terms of 10 out of 10 shithousery, Oluwakawatu's man of the match. Go running down and getting involved in his suit. That's the only issue I had with it was... But, I mean, don't fine him. We turn around and say you want Origin to be above the law and you want people... Like, people didn't want Joseph Swaliti sent off for decapitating Reece Walsh. It's over with. I don't want to talk about Origin anymore, Dan.
Origin is done. It's not on the list. But what is on the list is a certain premiership-winning 5'8" who retired a couple of weeks ago, and we were very, very positive on it because of his obvious head knocks and the fact that if he thought it was time, it was time. That's Keary, who's officially backflipped and signed a 2-year deal with Catalans in the Super League. Now, he's come out and said in the last day or two that he had no... I can't remember the exact words. I should have looked at that. That's bad on my behalf. But he had no want to come back to the NRL. Says to me he's going for an easy payday in France, and I don't blame him one little bit.
Yeah, I think like Luke Keary's only 32 or 33 years old, so he's probably still got a bit of rugby league left in him. But the NRL is tough. It's physical, and when you're a little guy with head knocks, like he's probably one, decent shot to the head from actually having to retire. I'm glad that he's not being lost to the game, and I'm glad he is going over to the Super League because you get to see him play again, and Catalans have been pretty successful in recent years, making a couple of grand finals. So I think it's good. I'm glad that he didn't do the backflip and then stay with the Roosters or turn around and go, I'm never going to play with them again, but then go and take a payday at another club. It's good that we're not losing his talent yet because the season that he's having at the moment is absolutely unreal. So. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Luke Keary.
Yeah, me too. Now, I watched the Super League game on the weekend. It was Wigan versus Hull SC, I believe.
Lol.
Now, Wigan are running away with the minor premiership, right? And they lost to a team that, look, is akin to what the Tigers are in the Super League. And even when Wigan were trailing by 20 points, everyone's like, Wigan will run them down. Now, they didn't. But the quality of the game was atrocious. Abbas Miski is playing football over there. Now, I don't want to bag him because I don't know the bloke, and I couldn't tell you a negative about him. Except his football. Luke Keary has probably seen what Matt Moylan's done. Last year, he was an absolute passenger in the NRL. Like, I'm talking, every team was like, Moylan, there's 2 tries, easy. He still could play a bit of football. He's gone to England and he's 3rd or 4th in the Man of Steel.
He's now number 1. Yeah. He's now number 1 in the Man of Steel. He's the odds-on favourite to win it.
See, and I have nothing against Moylan. You and I are bigger fans than 90% of the world, 99% of the world, to be honest.
The reason why you and I are on this podcast is because Matt Moylan signed with Cronulla 6 or 7 years ago.
Exactly right. Now, I saw some people come out early and say, it's disrespectful to the Roosters, this and that. The Roosters coach was the one that introduced him to the Catalans coach and kick-started this in motion. So there are no hard feelings from that group. I think this is brilliant news. I love Luke Keary. I was really upset there, or not upset. I was sad to see that he was retiring. Happy to see he's playing in England, where, look, let's be really honest, it's not the NRL quality.
It would have been disrespectful to the Roosters had he gone and signed back with South Sydney or had he gone to another Sydney club. That would have been disrespectful to the Roosters. He's playing the same game in a different country. Let it go.
Exactly right. Now, Trent Robinson has been on record as saying that he had a bit to do with this. So that's the end of it, Roosters fans. Mm-hmm. But one coach, mate, who will, look, I think should be under the spotlight, and I was shocked when they re-signed him last year, that's Adam O'Brien. There is evidently a big clean-out coming at Newcastle. Saifidi's been linked away. I think he'll sign with the Dragons sooner than later. Club captain Jaden Brayley's been linked away, and I don't blame him. He's not worth what he's earning. There's other players that have been linked. I don't have any concrete proof of that, so I don't want to mention here. I think Adam O'Brien's the one that should be on the way, mate, because they were running, third last year? Kalen Ponga went into Dalian form, dragged him to a finals. They fluked a finals win, then got wrist hold. They've been terrible all season. They're in the exact same spot. Ponga's on one leg, and they don't have the forward pack they did last year, and they don't have Dom Young. I think he's the one that needs to go.
Yeah, look, I'm actually a fan of Adam O'Brien, the person, and I do like what he has done at Newcastle because he hasn't gone out and tried to grab every big name that was available on the market. He's doing the right thing for the small clubs like Newcastle, and he's trying to do the junior path, and he's giving you your Fletcher Sharps and those kinds of guys the opportunity to come and play footy at the Knights. I think it's a never-ending cycle at Newcastle where they get a coach, he does okay, they fall back down to where they probably should be on the ladder. They have a bit of a decent run, they re-sign him, and then they've got to sack him and pay him out. I think with Newcastle, you've just got to pick and stick, and they're never going to attract an elite level coach. Again, let's be honest. So you've either got to develop a coach, or you've just got to stick it out where it is at the moment. The expectations of the Knights every year, they're not a powerhouse club. No one this year predicted them to be in the finals. I predicted them to win the finals, sorry. You and I debated about whether they were going to be in the top 8 or not. So, I don't think he's floundering too much. And if you have a look at the injury crisis that he did have, and I know you're going to turn and say, but Penrith have one as well. Penrith have a talent stream that is never to be seen again. This is generational what they have. This is not what Newcastle have at the moment. And they don't have someone like Andrew Johns who can go and bail a bad team out and win them a premiership. If they sacked him, whatever. If they don't, whatever.
What are your thoughts on Saifidi and Brayley possibly leaving?
Well, Brayley should leave the NRL. His body's letting him down. He should be on a plane over to England with Luke Keary, getting his payout over there. Daniel Saifidi is a strange one because a couple of weeks ago when it was rumoured that he was out, I would have loved Cronulla to have made a play at him, especially when it sounded like Royce Hunt was going to leave. I don't know if the Dragons is the right move as well when you see what their roster consists of for the next couple of years. He should be looking to punch up, not punch down or punch sideways. He's a good player, and if you put him in a Melbourne team, he would be absolutely unbelievable. You put him at St George, it's just going to be much of a muchness.
Yeah, I was shocked to hear Saifidi, to be honest, especially Daniel. I thought maybe Jacob. Mm-hmm. I know they get bundled in being twins. It's going to happen there.
Yeah, Daniel's the far superior one.
Origin. Yeah, I just thought Daniel was a better player, but he's probably the one that they know will get someone to pay full freight for. Yeah. With Jacob, they will pay 80. They're in a position where they need to balance the salary cap, and it's all because they're paying a fullback who's worth about 800k, 1.5 million. Now, I know that's hard to say because Ponga single-handedly dragged him to a final series. They had no right to be anywhere near last year. So I get it, 100%. He came back, we've seen a different team. I know he didn't play particularly well in Origin, but I thought he got Brad Fittler, he got picked without a real plan there, so I'm not going to blame him for that. I think Newcastle got on a little bit of a run. I think they've left it too late. I can't see last year happening again because that came on the back of Dom Young and Greg Margie scoring 100 tries too. There's no Dom Young and Margie's not the same player. I just think that they need a reset up there. They need a halfback. They've re-signed a couple of okay players, but they need a halfback. And I know it's easier said than done, but if they were to bring... I go back to the Luke Brooks thing a couple of years ago. If they'd signed Brooks, I feel like they'd be a step ahead. I know it sounds funny being on how negative I've been about Luke Brooks, but I thought he needed a separation from the Tigers, and I thought Newcastle was the answer. Couldn't get it done. I don't feel like they had a plan B. I'm with you though. I don't really want to see O'Brien sacked. I just don't think he's anywhere near the coach they made him out to be at the end of last year. I think Newcastle are a year or two away from doing anything, but watch this space.
Yeah.
Now, one team that is doing something against terrible teams, and that is the Sydney Roosters, who have officially taken the title of the flat track bullies of the competition away from the Cronulla Sharks. And thank you to the Tricolours. Mate, I was shocked to hear they'd beaten Melbourne, once in the past, 5 or 6 years, and they haven't beaten Penrith in 5 or 6 years. If you told me that stat, I would have called BS.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the round... Oh, it goes back to 2019 when they actually had the decent record against teams like that. Look, you're never going to hear about it in the media because it's not Cronulla. But the Roosters' record is not real good.
It's not. Now, they're beaten up on terrible teams this year to the point where they've only beaten one current top 8 team. Now, I know you and I have been a bit critical on people saying that because it depends on, at the time, were they in the top 8 or they in the top 8 now as you make it. It can be done. But you look at the Roosters' record, it's a lot like Cronulla's was last year. They beat the Tigers senseless. They beat Newcastle. They lost to Newcastle. I know they lost some terrible games, but they're flogged teams and they got 1,000,000 points for, and their differentials eye-wateringly good. But as soon as they step into a game against Melbourne, they're absolute fodder.
They are.
I was not expecting it this year. I thought that the Roosters would go deep. I am writing them off right now, Terry.
I think that's a big call to write them off because there is undeniable talent in that team, and I think if that game was played in Sydney on the weekend, they'd probably come away with the win. I do believe that they may have been guilty of reading their own hype leading into that game, but I'm not going to write them off. I think they're still going to be there and thereabouts, and if you give them the opportunity in a preliminary final against Melbourne, I think they win that game.
See, if they can somehow, it works out. I don't know how. Maybe they lose. I don't know how to work. But if they can avoid Melbourne and Penrith in a prelim,
yep,
which means they'd have to beat one to get there. I don't know how it's possible. But if they can do that and play them on Grand Final Day, Grand Final Day is completely different. Anything can happen. But right now, I reckon you play Melbourne or Penrith 10 times, they win maybe once or twice. So it's good. They're done. They're done. Roosters fans, I apologise. Come at me if they win the comp. I'm happy to cop it. Done.
Done. He's calling done.
Yeah. I think they'll finish third, but don't think they can win the title.
I am not prepared to call a team with all that class done. I am saying that they'll be there in the prelim. Will they get to the grand final and win it? It's another story. I still think that everyone's chasing Penrith. But they're one team that has the talent. They definitely have the talent.
That's true. I need a soundbite. Now, speaking of Catalans earlier, Jared Wallace has signed for them, which I was shocked to hear because I thought Wallace still had some time. I think he's hugely underrated. Let's put it that way. What has gone under the radar, though, is Nicarima and Taukeiaho have been sacked by Catalans.
It's not just Nicarima and Taukeiaho either.
Yeah. They were, well, officially, and there was a young English player too, sorry to disrespect, I can't remember the name, but they called in sick, so they couldn't attend a team training session, then were photographed at a concert down the road. Everyone in the world has done it, but it's easy when it's you or me, Terry, and you get recognised once every 100 years. But when you're a bloke Taukeiaho's size and stature, that is a risky business. Yeah. He's out. Jared Wallace is in. I think that's an upgrade, although I think Taukeiaho is going to have plenty of suitors at the bargain end because the West Tigers let a player go. We'll discuss that on Outlaws. And I think Taukeiaho will come in and replace him.
Oh, I don't think he can. It's past the deadline.
Yeah, but the Roosters could do it, so why can't the Tigers?
Because the Roosters registered their player beforehand.
Yeah, but Taukeiaho wasn't there.
It was, they won't be able to do it. Taukeiaho's done for the year now. It was Damel Diakate that is the player from Catalans who has also been sacked. So you're seeing Taukeiaho out, Jared Wallace in, Jaden Nicarima out, Luke Keary in, Diakate out, and I think Tommy Mackinson has signed with them for next season.
That's good.
So... yeah, look, some upgrades all around. But yeah, I can't see Taukeiaho. He failed his medical at the Bulldogs, so I can't see any NRL team being too eager to revisit that knee injury that he has.
So I wrote last week that the Tigers need value, right? They need to put Clemmer on a plane to England. They need to get his $800K roughly off the books. Sign Taukeiaho for $200. Mm-hmm. Because this is a bloke who used to be the best prop in the game. Now, he's a long way from what he was, and as you said, he did fail that medical, otherwise he'd still be playing for the Bulldogs now. But this is a bloke who has that talent and can fill a spot for super cheap. I'd only offer him a one-year deal. Mm-hmm. I also think Melbourne will look at him now that Nelson looks on his way out, and I don't know which way Stefano's going to land. But can you imagine him getting a year? It's Tavita Pangai Jr. all over again. I think you spend a year for him and then look to a younger option. I think their suitors out.
Yeah, look, there will be suitors, but again, I think teams are going to go. You know, he was done and dusted, and he'd like to a point where he had flown his family over from the UK because he was all but released from Catalans, and he failed his medical at the Dogs, and you know, you even hear Gus Gould talk about that they were planning for him to be there for the year, and they had helped him come over, and all this other things there. So, I don't know if there's going to be a big market for him, and I don't know if that's the kind of player that the West Tigers need. I don't think they need another old injury-prone player to add to it. And it might be value. It might be value for money, but you're probably not going to get value for performance, and that's what they need at the moment. They need better players than that.
But fair. Now we'll shift to our old whipping boys, the West Tigers. We seem to go positive and negative week to week. I can't remember where we're at, so let's go in the middle ground. Robbie Farah has left the club. I think Farah and the Tigers need to block each other's number. That relationship has soured 6 or 7 times now. That needs to be it. Benji Marshall needs not 1, but 2 assistant coaches with lots of experience to sit beside him and help him rebuild this club. I was never on board with the Farah thing. I know he's a legend, but it felt like they were hedging their bets and going both ways. They've obviously picked Benji, who I think is a better footy brain and obviously a less of a kind of player. I don't want to bag Farah because I'm a huge fan of his, but there seems to be some dramas wherever he goes. Do you think it's the right decision, and who would you bring in to assist young Benji Marshall?
I definitely think it's the right decision to get rid of Robbie Farah. I think it was ridiculous the way that this whole scenario has been brought on. They you know, Chris Hyington's running the water out for him. You're seeing Dean Hallertau around there, you know, around the club. Bryce Gibbs is now jumping in. You know, I get it. They see something there in Benji Marshall that we haven't seen yet. You know, he's got the boys up for a couple of games, whatever, right? But I don't know if surrounding him with Tim Sheens, who was well past it, and Robbie Farah, who caused issues at the Tigers and didn't have any coaching credentials. It's kind of like my question that I posed about Craig Fitzgibbon, that we brought him in, but have we surrounded him with enough success? We haven't put experienced assistant coaches around him, apart from Steve Price, who was, you know, he's a 2-time assistant coach premiership winner. But the other players, like you're talking about your Josh Hannay, who's coached 3 first-grade games or whatever it is. Daniel Holdsworth is in there. Like, you haven't put the right tools around him. And especially if you're bringing in a rookie coach in a club that has won less than 13 games, coming up for 3 years now, 4 years, whatever it is. I think it's a great decision, and I think they need to go all out and look at someone like Adam O'Brien if they're going to get sacked. Yeah, have a look at what the Roosters did with Justin Holbrook and what it's done to their attack this year. The more experience for a rookie, the better. I think it's when you get your experienced coaches in, like your Wayne Bennett. If Craig Bellamy ever went to another club, that's when you turn in and go, hey, you Robbie Farahs, hey, you know, whoever wants to come and learn the craft, but don't learn the craft as a rookie from a rookie with a guy who's got dementia.
Look, completely fair. I have a bad feeling that Trent Barrett's going to jump across to the Tigers because he's been told that he's gone skis at Parramatta.
But they got John Morris as well, yeah?
I believe so, yeah. So you're getting a young group there. I just feel like they need to pick the bones. The next bloke that gets sacked needs to be the assistant of the Tigers next year. You know, I don't know who that is offhand, but I'd be looking at a Demetrio and say, we know it didn't end well at South, but you served under Wayne Bennett. You did get him to a finals. You know, you've handled... South Sydney's a much bigger club than the Tigers, let's be fully honest. You've handled that. So I'd bring him across in a second. I'd be looking at Josh Hannay as well. I know as a Shark that's going to sound weird, but all the talk at Parramatta is that they were really interested in Hannay. I felt it was Riles from the beginning, but they were very much... And Hannay, you know, he's been in the Queensland camp as the assistant. His name's always coming up. So I'd be looking at him because he seems to be the best assistant going around, although I don't personally believe that myself, what he's done at Cronulla. But there's so many people in England, so many coaches in England that got sacked and went over there who can very easily be lured back and say, wait, come hang on the beaches. It's not -3 degrees. You're not losing the Ashes all the time. I'm having to go to England here because it's really fun. But come assist Benji for the next 5 years. And they can put a bit of... Because, look, they've stuck by Benji Marshall. Let's face it. If they were going to sack him, he would have been gone weeks and weeks ago. They've backed him, so there's some job security there. So I'd say, whoever you bring across, you got a couple of years. We're going to rebuild around you. I think it's a decent sell.
It is a decent sell, especially if you're talking about someone like Demetriou, who would have his eyes on the prize. He would be sitting there on one hand trying to make the club as successful as it can, but on the other hand, you turn around and going, well, that's another loss. That's another loss. That's another loss. I'm over here, guys. Like, yeah, it's hard to get positive about anything that the Tigers do at the moment, but I think getting rid of Robbie Farah is one of the most positive things they probably could do.
Last but not least, mate, geez, Brisbane look better with their halfback back on deck. Adam Reynolds comes back and the Broncos win. Who would have thought? Does this make Brisbane... Did I go too early? Did I go the early crow in saying that they were frauds? Or they left their run too late?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure I tried to tell you that their injury problems that they had up there, including losing Adam Reynolds, was big. You saw all their players back up from Origin. You saw how good Adam Reynolds was in that game. I don't know why I tipped Newcastle, but I did. He's... despite his age, despite his injury history, he's still a top-line halfback in the competition. And you need a good halfback to win the competition. The last team that didn't have a good halfback that won the competition was Cronulla in 2016. Before that, it was Brisbane with Shane Perry. Other than that, you need to have an elite-level halfback. He's really good. Brisbane are good. They may have left their run a little bit too late. I don't know what their run home is like. I think we need to do a deep dive on one of our mini shows into that, but it's going to be interesting to see how they fire. And look, I'll say this, the Shackles looked like they were off Reece Walsh because teams couldn't just go and target Reece Walsh because they had to worry about Adam Reynolds and they had to worry about Ezra Mam. And the Reynolds and Mam combination opens up Reece Walsh so well that he was amazing on the weekend.
It's a good point you make about Walsh. Even though we look at him as this superstar player, he's still a kid. Yep. He's still young. He's in his third season now, and he's just played a full Origin series where his head got taken off. He didn't play football between Origin 1 and 2, I don't believe.
Mm-hmm.
This is a kid who copped a lot of undue criticism because he didn't have a great Origin series. After last year, he had a magnificent Origin series. So I think Reynolds coming back is just going to bring Reece Walsh back. I think Brisbane will make the 8 now. I think they'll finish 8th, but I can't see them doing much in the finals. They've left it too late, but what a difference it makes. Just quickly too, Canberra also got their halfback back and beat the Warriors. I wouldn't put Fogarty quite in that same era of the Reynolds and the Clearys and co, who also played well with their halfback back. But I gotta say, Canberra might have a little bit to say over the next few weeks.
Yeah, look, Jamal Fogarty is not an elite level halfback, but he is a very serviceable halfback. And he just fits that Canberra team so well. They've built a game plan around him. He goes and kicks the piss out of the ball. He passes the ball really, really well. He's an excellent defender. He's a strong runner. I like Jamal Fogarty. For those who don't know, I'm a very, very unabashed Jamal Fogarty fan. And I think his injury really, really, really hurt Canberra this year. I don't think they're going to make the finals, but I think they can be... What's the NRL's favourite rule this year? They can be a disruptor. Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Knock On Podcast brought to you by the good people at Zero Tackle, your one-stop shop for all things rugby league. We've got news, we've got gossip, we've got transfers as they come through, we've got up-to-date player contracts, and we have the best independent writers on the planet writing for Zero Tackle, including my good man, Dan Nichols. Dan, what have you got for us?
Mate, look, I've had a couple of days off. Got my 20 thoughts in after Origin, which was fairly well received, I have to say. Usually it's a lot of negativity. Must have been a lot of Blues fans in the comments, so thank you for that. A couple of things. Got the rankings dropping tomorrow. It's coming into the weekend. Look, it's a quiet week for me, to be honest. But next week, I have a feeling Cronulla are going to do the Cowboys, and then the propaganda is going to flow once again, and I cannot wait.